All right. Good morning. This is Dr. Bill Williams coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia, live with the Influencers Podcast. And we are excited today because we have a conversation with a friend down in sunny Florida, South Florida, that is, Alex Hochberger, founder of Web3 Enabler. He's been around a good while. He knows a lot of stuff. I thought it'd be very interesting to bring him on today and have him share with you some of his expertise because he's got a lot of expertise in a lot of areas. So welcome to the Influencers Podcast, Alex.
Thank you, Bill. It's exciting to be here and exciting to be here for your audience.
And everybody says we're jealous of you being in the sunny state of Florida.
It is a delightful feature of fall and winter where we sit here having wonderful weather, and I enjoy seeing about fall and winter on my Facebook feed from friends.
We're so glad you're able to break away from the sunshine to come indoors for a while, spend time with us. And, Web3 Enabler is something that sounds kind of sexy. What is Web3 Enabler? And tell us how you got started in that.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. I like to refer to myself as the most boring company in the Web3 space. And people in finance get that reference. It's the idea of boring companies that turn out consistent profits. And we're really focused on making Web3 boring. So Web3 is kind of the marketing name for blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and all of these new technologies that are creating a decentralized web. Decentralized meaning it's not controlled by central servers. Everyone's servers are able to interact, and it puts us all on equal footing around the globe. So Web3 Enabler is designed to make this new world of Web3 for payments available to normal businesses. And so why is this boring? So you've all heard of Bitcoin. Bitcoin jumps up 30%, drops down 20%. Crazy, exciting new technology attempting to be gold for the 21st century. And then there's the Ethereum network, which is kind of the second generation that lets you do more advanced things and create new tokens. And we were all seeing it in the news, and then it all crashed with a bunch of fraud, and then new things came up in the news, and then new fraud. So that's the wild, wild west of Web3.
Like this.
Oh, yeah. So we laugh, we say, so we remember Bitcoin shoots up 48% a year, but massive crashes, 10x up 1 year, down half in the next year. We focus on a technology called a stablecoin. A stablecoin is the most boring version of a cryptocurrency. It's essentially a one-to-one tie to a fiat currency. So it's basically a proxy for a digital dollar. And the reason I say proxy is it's issued by a fintech company. It's not issued by the government itself or the Fed. So the two leading ones are from a company called Tether that makes a stablecoin called USDT, and one from a company called Circle that makes a stablecoin called USDC. And they both have their euro equivalents that are tied to the euro and the British pound and the yen. But for an American audience, we'll focus on the stable dollar. So why is this relevant? If you've ever done a wire transfer, if you don't do them regularly, you're calling your bank, you have to talk to the wire room, all of these things, people generally just send a wire when they buy a house. Other than that, most normal people never send a wire transfer. But businesses have gotten used to high-speed transactions and not waiting, 5 days for a check in the mail and 5 days to clear. Wires clear immediately, but they're expensive and you need authorization to send them. So if you don't send them all the time, you might pay $20 or $25 a wire fee. International is even slower because you're using the SWIFT interbanking system. It may take 2 days. It may be expensive, and you'll also get a terrible exchange rate. Anyone who's used their credit card on an overseas trip knows that the banks take a 1.5% spread between the public exchange rates and what you get hit on your credit card.
Ding, ding.
Yep. And look, if you're buying a cup of coffee in Lisbon, it's not a big deal that you're paying an extra 15 cents on your transaction. But if you are moving large amounts of international business, that can be huge. The average typical small business operates on margins about 10%. So if you're paying 1.5% in your exchange rate and 4% on your credit card processing fee, then, what would be potentially a 10% profit margin is now 5%. Half your profit could go to bank fees. So that was where the idea of Web3 enabler was to solve. How can we use this new technology to stop spending all of our money on bank fees? So that's the long story of what we're trying to do here. The origin was actually rather funny. We were in Lisbon, sorting out the fact that one coffee shop would take our American credit card, one would not. We were there for a Web3 conference. And we started talking about, we were invited to a Web3 event that we needed a specialized NFT to get into. NFT is a non-fungible token. They're most famous for digital art, but they really can be anything. And the idea is they can be used for passes for events. So all of us had to go and fire up our Web3 wallets and get on this specific test network and get these specific coins for using on the test network, and then go to this page to mint the NFT and get it sent to us. And we're laughing. We're at a table full of Web3 enthusiasts and Web3 developers who are writing and doing blockchain smart contracts. And it took us the better part of 45 minutes to get this to work. And we're like, there's no way this is usable for normal people. So that was where, what is the simplest operation that could show people that could work? And we're like, international payments, right? If I wanted to be able to send 1,000 euros to a company in Lisbon and I bank in dollars, this shouldn't involve my international wire fee. Why can't we just do this phone to phone? So that's where Web3 Enabler was born. So Web3 Enabler is our first product from the group Mutual Knowledge Systems that this idea was birthed out of. And this is really focused on the Salesforce ecosystem. Now, Salesforce is the world's largest CRM company in the world. It's got about 25% market share. Number two is at 6%. They do about $33 billion a year in business. Every major company you hear of uses this for their sales and their sales and support operation. So we created a very simple system that allows a customer service rep to see a blockchain transaction and a sales rep to be able to connect your wallets in, so that when you get an invoice, you can pay it in stablecoins. Right? And it seems so simple, but now, we had to go translate blockchain into traditional finance. We had to go and make things that the accountants can read it. It all looks like a general ledger that you would see in your normal accounting system, whether you're using Sage or QuickBooks or a more serious SAP like GL. Your transactions are easily downloadable, verifiable by the accounting department. And what we find really exciting about this is not the technology, which turns a process that took me 45 minutes when this started into about 90 seconds. That's great. But to me, this puts people anywhere on the planet on equal footing when doing international business. So if I'm in Brazil or I'm in Argentina and I want to purchase things from an American company that's running Web3 Enabler, I can go and use my local currency, convert into my local digital reais or digital peso, convert it on the decentralized exchange, which instead of charging 150 basis points, charges about 7 basis points. And I can go and send the transaction for what amounts to under $3 in gas fees on Ethereum. And when all that is said and done, we've taken a complicated multi-day process into a process that can be completed in about 1 to 2 minutes by anyone on the planet, anywhere, using only their cell phone, talking to a company anywhere else. And to me, that's really exciting.
I do think you're onto something. It's been needed. Western Union doesn't have the market that it used to have.
So, funny story on Western Union. My wife is a small business owner, and she's a tax accountant, and she had a contractor that was in India that was doing some very basic administrative support, organizing files, getting things set up so the tax preparers could get ready. She asked them how to pay. She's like, can I send you PayPal? They said, no, the fees for PayPal are outrageous here. They wanted Western Union. And this was a number of years ago, but she couldn't set up the Western Union account online for her business. So to conduct an international transaction, she went to our nearest grocery store and went over to the Western Union desk in the customer service area and set up a Western Union account. She was fortunately able to send payments after that via bank transfer. But her first transaction, she had to use cash at a grocery store. That's insane. Like, could you imagine that you couldn't do business without going to the grocery store to send a transfer?
Well, you always go to get cheese, eggs, and Western Union, right?
Right. Oh, and I must pay my employee over in India. I need to go to the grocery store. So I'm excited the way PayPal made domestic transfers very simple. We look forward to the crypto world and Web3 making international transfers really simple. And we've really decided to focus on the most conservative element of it, corporate America, corporate Europe, and really letting them tie in with their systems.
Sounds like you're onto something again. That's great. Did you ever have any kind of big aha moments? Something failed and you had to learn from that before this thing got to be up and running?
So I've run Salesforce systems for a couple of companies, and I will say we've used some of the incumbent credit card processing things, and there's two big ones out there. I'm not going to mention their names, but one has a beautiful interface and an outrageous cost, and one has a very confusing interface but a more moderate cost. So one of the things I really wanted to do when doing this was make it so simple that someone who doesn't understand anything about crypto can make this work, right? If you are there selling helicopter parts to Brazil, you don't have to understand how Bitcoin works and run a Bitcoin wallet. You just have to know, oh, you want to pay us in our Web3 currency? No problem. I hit the button to send you a connection link. Here you go. I text it to you. I email it to you. All handled by automation. Once you're connected, great. Here's your invoice. Scan the QR code right there. And to me, this is so exciting. And I've sent crypto to someone. We've misentered a number. It's disappeared. We've dealt with all these crazy multi-sig wallets. Someone scams, asks for a small amount of money. You don't think much of it. You're not paying attention, right? They send you a Bitcoin address. You send it over. All these things you hear about, all of us who've been playing in this Wild West have all experienced it. And we've all seen this happen. And it's like, no, this has to be simple. Let's start with the basic case where you know someone. But we're so excited to create more and more normal operations running on the public blockchain, just helping people all over the world better their lives by being able to do business.
Did you have any other advice? Seeing what people do, trying to send money internationally, what other things have happened that cause people not to do it successfully?
So people have obviously in the past mailed cash in envelopes, which obviously sometimes gets intercepted. I think that's really been on the gone down. The other thing that seems to happen is KYC, which is a very important, know your customer, is a very important part of anti-money laundering statutes, and highly supportive. And we think that that's a very important part. You need to know your customer. But we've also seen banks where an automatic filter catches up with them. For whatever reason, your name matches someone else who's on a list. The server on the government side is down. Something happens, and it can take days or weeks to unwind. We've had an online bill payment to a client. We didn't want to do a wire transfer. We weren't set up for that yet, and we didn't want to spend the time. It took 3 weeks for the online bill pay to pay someone. That's just not acceptable in a world of, credit card instant payments. The Fed has just released a new service, the U.S. Federal Reserve, called Fed Now. I was up in Boston at the Boston Fed, and they were demoing this, and it's fantastic. Bank-to-bank transfers happening instantaneously instead of 3 days. Like, all of this just needs to be faster. We think that the areas people run into are numerous, and some of them are things you don't even think about. I'd like to tell a small anecdote that was an international payment situation. The beginning of the Russian-Ukraine war. Someone was from the Moscow area, had purchased a product from the company I was in charge of the Salesforce operation for. And the Ukraine war happened, and for very good reasons, American finance pulled out of the Russian market. And FedEx wasn't delivering to Moscow as sanctions were kicking in, so we could not deliver this customer's product. Okay, I fully support this, and that was great. So he's like, we understand what your country is doing. He wasn't arguing with us. He's like, just refund my payment, and when the war ends, hopefully we'll be able to do business together. We couldn't do a refund. MasterCard had shut down. So this was a situation where we as a company felt we were in an unethical situation where not doing business with Russia was the right thing, but we had taken their money on an international credit card because we were supposed to ship, and then we couldn't refund it because of when the sanction timing hit. And that was a very uncomfortable position to be in. So that sort of a situation was really where we think that crypto's instant clearing is so important. The money should transfer or not. Sanctions and government interactions and KYC are super important. And it's super important that we have traceability. All Web3 transactions are on a public blockchain, and you can transfer everything. And none of what we are doing is helping companies hide, right? It's tied in with your Salesforce. We are not supportive of anonymous transfers. But what we are supportive of is the transaction should succeed or fail, right? If you're going to pay me for service, I should be able to give you some service. We shouldn't have a separate set of rules on the payment side and on the delivery side and not be able to unwind. So that's really what we think is super important.
That makes a lot of sense, Alex. I think you're probably going to get a lot of people to look into this and go, something I can use. What motivates you internally to keep pushing hard at being a force behind this whole Web3?
So I was in high school when the first .com era hit, and it was the most exciting time to be in the computer world. And I went to MIT after that, which learned a lot of theory, but you were kind of removed from what was going on for 4 years because everything was, learning the math and theory behind it. And then right as I graduated, had been right after the .com crash, and then 9/11 happened, and it went from this super exciting world to less. So, as that went through, but I always remember that energy level of that 90s boom. And the Web 2.0 boom was huge and great, and we did all sorts of exciting things, but it didn't even have that energy level of we're changing the world that the original internet era had. So when Web 3 started to happen and heat up and I learned about it, I got super excited because this was the first really major change in 15 years. And I had to be a part of this at the ground level. I left my job at a Miami venture capital firm. I joined a Web3 innovation studio. I had to explain to my wife and my kids that we had to be a little more conservative with cash as my life changed. But I say I feel 25 again. This is the most exciting time to be developing new products. I'm watching what's going on with the NFT space. I talk to people that are dealing with things like international title transfers, property. We're going to change the whole securities industry. And what's funny about it is it's such an exciting world. And I laugh, I'm dealing with the small, boring part of it, but payments are at the start of the process. But as we look at this sort of thing, I look at this world. Remember the stock market where you'd pay a 25, 50 cent spread between the bid and ask, and some guy in New York had to hold up a piece of paper and someone had to go talk to him? That was how business was done not that long ago. Remember imprint machines on credit cards and you had to run them across and you had to so I look at this and I'm like, now everyone's got Venmo on their phone. You need to send your friend money, you just Venmo them. I'm at a farmer's market in New Jersey and I can Venmo the little small farm. All of these things that make payments frictionless change the world. They let farmers run their own business and not have to sell the middlemen. They let small businesses compete in a global market. All of these things to me are so exciting. I see artisans creating cool new products, selling direct STL files to enthusiasts who are 3D printing all over the world. And you can't do that if you can't pay people. So
Alex, you really do. You did hit one on the nail there when you said artisans. We did some interviews with two people that were using NFTs and blockchain technology. One to sell wine directly from vineyards and bottlers to the end user collector, the high-end collector, and also people with art that they had produced in their family, and they were going to market it and bring it to the public and let the NFTs be some of the higher end parts. So yeah, people are starting to put together Web3 concepts in many areas.
And I'm often reminded of Paul Krugman's quote. I think it was right after the crash. It was somewhere around that. It was at the beginning era when some of the early .com companies had fizzled out. And he said that in time, people will find the internet is no more exciting than the fax machine. And while it's true, the fax machine also changed business, right? Because it made business to business transactions faster. The internet's made it available for everyone, right? Your small business at the store wasn't sending their attorney on a flight with a contract to get signed, right? Like big business was. So the fax machine opened it up to the smaller business, but it didn't open up to everything. Like the way PayPal and eBay changed the world. Like, and now Etsy. If you're a small crafter and you can sell your craft on Etsy. And I look at this world where now it'll be decentralized and you don't get gatekeep, right? Like you can do business with anyone. A woman in a small village in Africa that does a localized craft should be able to sell their product. And, that's really that's really the change.
If we take it to the level of starting to market your services, what is the motto of Web3 Enabler?
It is revolutionizing enterprise payments in Salesforce.
Revolutionary. Do you have a secret or two that you can share that you're going to help others model from?
So I would say, number one, focus on your goal. One of the things that happens on every product development is you go down a rabbit hole of new ideas and new features and wouldn't it be nice. And anytime I found things stalling out, it's back to a punch list. Like, what do we need to get this version out the door? Everything else moves forward because great engineership. I would say the second is integrity. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. If something comes up, forget a meeting, I'm apologetic. I don't blame others. I don't do whatever. You take full responsibility. That sort of integrity and honesty is really super important. And I never want anyone to think I've been dishonest with them in business. And that is, I would say that. And I would say the third secret is really challenge your assumptions. There's all these things that we know to be true that may or may not be true. So, I have found in every business, there's been something we've known to be true that's not. So look at the data, believe in the data, challenge the data, but always test it because you'll always find patterns that may or not be there in the data. So if you found a pattern and then you run your tests and it's not working, realize you found a false positive and move back to square one. Like, scientific method is responsible for all innovations in life since the Enlightenment, and it's super important you follow that all the time, whether you are developing a new SaaS product or you are engaging in medical treatment or you are simply figuring out how to get a better yield on your tomato crop in your own home garden.
That's exactly what I would say. Three things you outlined pretty much are what's going on right now today. And if you don't put your eye on the ball, keep it on it, you're going to miss it. You'll swing and miss. And before you know it, you're out of the inning. You've lost the game. How would you answer this one? Why should someone buy from you? Why should Web3 Enabler be on their cell phone?
So if you are running Salesforce in your corporate IT and you want to accept payments from the world and you want your business to be accessible to everyone, we start at a very affordable rate. We will work with you in our partner network. We'll work with you to get it installed, and you make your products available to and services available to people anywhere in the world. So even if you're not ready to jump in Web3 and you're not really ready to jump into the crypto world, that's okay. We'll help you dip your toe in it, but you should make your products available to people who don't live in the G20. 40% of the planet lives in the global South, and this lets you do business with them, and that makes the world a better, safer place.
Who would be these ideal clients?
So if your company runs Salesforce and you're probably in the global North or a very big company in the global South, and you would like to increase your ability to do business in the global South. So you'd like to be able to do more business with people all over the world that are not in the US or the EU and a few other like major countries in there, but it's really making your products and services available to the rest of the world.
How do you go about finding the clients?
So we are in the Salesforce App Exchange. So anyone who's looking for Web3 or blockchain or crypto hopefully finds our product. We have a small but growing partner network. We currently have 3 Salesforce partners and should have 2 more or 3 more by the end of this month. We just launched a little over a month ago. And we are reaching out to companies that are running Salesforce and simply going out to them. So email, LinkedIn,
What's the
everything.
name of your actual product and service?
Web3 enabler for Salesforce.
Pretty clear, pretty understandable.
Right? So that's our goal. We like to think of ourselves as enabling Web3.
Is there any competition right now doing the same thing?
We are first in the Salesforce ecosystem to offer this. There is one other small one called Crypto that only does Bitcoin transactions and doesn't really integrate with the rest of your Salesforce ecosystem. And we are looking to crush our competition just by being small, nimble, and fast. We have a bunch of products coming out over the next 6 months that are extensions to Web3 Enabler for specialized use cases in the Salesforce ecosystem. And we do have plans to grow into other CRMs and ERPs. But for our first initial product launches, we're really focused on Salesforce.
Sounds like a winner. You've started naming 5-star client experience pointers already. So any more?
So one of the things that's really great is, in addition to my business career, I also have a vacation home that we run as an Airbnb rental. So nothing will train you more in how to be a concierge service than having to provide wonderful support to someone who is renting out your home and not understanding why they're not at a hotel. So I think that sort of white glove treatment is at the core of what I do. We have all of these systems I've learned over my career in larger businesses to make sure, we have a ticket system in place. We have autoresponders set up in place. We have the ability to connect and notifications and escalation, all of these things that we have set up. And we really want to work with Salesforce partners. So if your Salesforce partner is not one of ours, but you'd like to use Web3 Enabler, introduce us. I will happily onboard and train them. We'll work together on getting your install, and we will make sure everything runs smoothly and is built exactly to your needs. And the other thing I always remind everyone, as the founder and the original developer, it's not a feature request going to a nameless corporation. If you need something, I can build it.
Sounds to me like that's beyond 5-star, being able to help somebody implement Salesforce.
I believe we should be a 6-star out of 5-star at all times.
Michelin's calling. What about converting your clients into brand ambassadors? What's your strategy?
So unfortunately, this is the hard part of enterprise software, right? Because ultimately the IT department installs it and the Salesforce are the ones that are actually using it. So, and part of the beauty of Web3 Enabler is we're so hidden, right? Like after you install and set it up, your sales representative just works their same lead and opportunity. So I think the main thing we've got is communications and email lists and letting people know what we're envisioning to help them go faster. When PayPal came out with their StableCoin, they announced it on a Monday. We had it implemented and supported on Tuesday, and we cleared security updates, and we're live in the App Exchange with our release on a Wednesday. So to me, that's sort of getting ahead of things. We're very big on Circle USDC. We've added, we're on 4 blockchains. They were supporting 1 or 2 of them at the beginning. We now are supporting them on all of their blockchains. We're looking to add more blockchain supports for anywhere people want to do business. So one of the things we just want to do is we send out regular updates, just like we send out updates to our investors. We send out updates to our clients. We send them to our partners, letting people know as we add features, what's coming on the roadmap, asking people what they want, and just really letting them know that this is a way, what does a sales representative want to do? Satisfy their clients quickly, easily, and efficiently, complete their deal, and get their commission credited. Our goal is to make all of that faster and quicker for them and just let them know that we are here trying to make them better.
Excellent. Alex, this is October 18th. What are you grateful for today?
I have a wonderful family that is super supportive of all the crazy tech experience, and my poor teenage children that do have to accept that their dad actually knows more about the technology they use than they do, which none of their friends have to deal with.
That's for sure. I'm a 47-year trained dentist that retired, and I've always been interested in the tech stuff. I started with my first computer in 1981.
Very
So
nice.
we're talking about kids that don't think their dad knows much, but hey, sometimes we do.
Well, it was very funny because when running marketing in one company I was at, we were really targeting people that were, under 25. So it was funny. First it was Instagram, and then it was Snapchat. And it was really, my friends and peers are like, oh, I don't need to learn a new platform. I'm like, I don't have that luxury. So I attack any new platform with a vengeance.
Very good. I'm glad I'll be introducing you to some.
Absolutely.
How do you start your day?
Prayers and gratitude, and then a shower and a cup of coffee. And usually my first meeting starts soon after that. So it's a busy day, but it's always important to, I think really thank and praise God for all the blessings that are bestowed upon us.
Aren't we lucky to be where we are?
Absolutely. And when the world is crazy, it's an even bigger reminder of how lucky we are.
So I want to ask you this. Say it's all, down the road, you've looked back on your life. What advice are you going to give that young self called Alex Hochberger?
Listen more. You don't know everything.
Who are you listening to?
It was very funny. There was a lot of arrogance in my younger career, and I noticed, I had a lot of success that would have been much more successful if I was willing to listen, be coached, and listen to the advice of mentors. So really it's be coachable. And as I've gotten older, I've become more coachable, and it's gotten much further.
Speaking of coaching, I guess you had a living mentor that's made an impact on you?
Yeah, and it's really been a variety of them over the years. Andrew Perry, I met by happenstance. I worked for for his company, and he told me one of the best pieces of advice I ever got. So when you're running a business, if the fight is in here, we're losing. If the fight is out there, we're winning. And 25 years later, I can remember that conversation. And he said he was told it by his first mentor. So this business advice has been passed around for like 50 or 60 years. But it's really, whether you're running a nonprofit organization, you're leading a Boy Scout troop, one of my other hobbies, or you're running a startup company, your team needs to always be focused on how are we working together to get it done. Another mentor from that area, Peter Hupschman, I had the honor of working with. He brought me back into the Web3 space. He's a finance guy, old Wall Street guy who got the startup bug, and we worked together on a project when I was an undergrad, and we have been in touch for 25 years. He's watched my kid. He's been at my wedding, watched my kids grow up, and always learning new things from him.
That sounds really exciting. That you've done one thing that I can identify with, particularly is being in scouting. I was an Eagle Scout and was in from Cub Scouts all the way through Explorers. And then happenstance, I joined Alpha Phi Omega, the service fraternity, also founded by Baden Powell.
That's wonderful. So I was a Cub Scout, and I remembered it very fondly. And when they started a Cub Scout pack in my neighborhood, I went and checked it out with my son. And they were like, oh, do you have a scouting experience? I said, yes, I was a Cub Scout when I was a child. They're like, oh, would you like to be the Tiger Den leader? Okay. Yes. They're like, oh, and we camp 4 times a year. I'm like, we do what? We never camped when I was a Cub Scout. We did arts and crafts. Right. And over the next few years, I became Cub Master and Assistant Scout Master. And my son became an Eagle Scout last spring. And when the girls were allowed into the program, my wife became the Scout Master of our sister troop. And my daughters, one is a Life Scout, one is a Star Scout, and working through the program. And this ability to help and advise and work with children and really help them is one of the most meaningful experiences in my life. And I absolutely love being a part of Boy Scouts of America. On the adult side, there's sometimes that level of frustration, but the important thing is we never let it impact the children.
Hey, that's one of the biggest things you can do is support Boy Scouts. They do so much good, and I wish more people were involved. Now it's less numbers. I think people are in it now, but it was the biggest impact on my life for sure. And I give it credit for me getting into dental school because they're looking for differentiators when they look through your transcript. What sets you apart from the others that have the grades, the DAT score? Well, I think Boy Scout Eagle rank is a cut above. And so congratulations to your son and
Thank
your
you.
future Eagle daughters.
Thank you so much. It is
Now, what do you
absolutely
want to be
amazing
remembered for when it's all said and done?
that I was a good husband, good father, and good member of my community. The business is fun, but it's to serve a greater purpose.
Sure enough. How can we support you, and what's the way to connect to Web3 Enabler?
So you can find us on social media at Web3 Enabler. You can look at our website, web3-enabler.com. My email is alexh@mukn.com. That's the mutual knowledge group that we've created Web3 Enabler out of. And, we're really looking for introductions to Salesforce integration partners, Salesforce customers that are interested, and investors that believe that the future of the world may be decentralized and they want to be a part of it.
Sounds like a winner, and I encourage everybody to look into that, particularly if they're already in Salesforce. What would you say about your experience on the Influencer podcast today, Alex?
You have been wonderful, welcoming. I have enjoyed this. If you want introductions to any future guests, I am happy to make them.
Excellent. We always appreciate good advice from learned people pushing out the word. Hey, I want to give you the final word before I come back. So I'm going to give you
all I'm going to say is whatever you see something can't be done, isn't being done, and it can be done, don't assume it can't be done. Find the right people together and figure out how to make it happen and how to get it done, because the world is a big, exciting place, and really we can accomplish anything on it.
There you have the final word from Alec Hochberger. Exciting times. We do appreciate all the work you've done to share with us today. Our audience is worldwide, 200 countries, and we're all interested in StableCoin. We're all interested in Web3 and blockchain. So you hit the home run today. When you started talking about these items, I know my audience is going to jump in, and we'll have 1,000 people watch this within the next few hours. So it'll grow from there. So thanks for sharing. And speaking of sharing, I want to share my QR code up there. And if you want to take a picture of it, it'll go to where other than my digital business card, of course. It goes to ovu.me at ONPASSIVE there, or /ONPASSIVE. And I really focus on two things, Alex, when I share that card. I focus on the podcast. Of course, we want people to know how to get to the podcast, and it's at drbillwilliams.tv, where I keep a lot of the episodes and information about what I've done over the last 50 years. And mostly I've taught dentists, but I've broken away and retired from dentistry. And now I teach more the general public about IT technology, artificial intelligence. So what we're doing is giving away many free products, a trim URL type of product, shortens long URLs, and it makes QR codes that are trackable. So we track everything that we trim. We also have something that is Connect, which is the latest, greatest digital video conferencing software. We're using AI, and we're having simultaneous language translation. So you can speak in any language on your end and be heard in any other language on the other end. That's going to be a world beater right there. And you're going to love that one. We also have noise cancellation built into it so that the dog barking, the baby crying doesn't add up. So how about that? It doesn't add to your story. We have OTracker, which is a special analytics for web sites. We can track things in great detail, very much similar to Google Analytics, but better and easier to use. And I didn't write it down yet, but we have Verify. you mentioned something about OKYC, right? So we have O-Verify, which will, in about 30 seconds, verify people at a 98% validity worldwide, instantaneously in every country. So that's going to be available, and it'll be something that is much less expensive than most of the verification processes. And it'll be something that big businesses can purchase, but individuals get for free. So you'll enjoy that one. So
that's very exciting, and I look forward to learning more about all these things.
Yeah, write down any of these URLs, and they all go to the same place. So if you go in and you look at what we've got available, trim URL. There's about 4 things we have that are free we give away. And we've got 1 thing for sale right now, and we'll have more coming up. So the things that we want to share for free, everybody should take a look at them. And I'll be glad to support you on connecting with all this, Alex. And we want to connect with what you're doing, of course. And I'll be glad to push out to people with Salesforce, especially, that I know about what this Web3 enabler is, now that I do know.
Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful experience on here.
Thank you so much. Well, this is the end of our broadcast today. We'll be glad to connect with all you guys around the world on the next Influencers podcast. So stay tuned. We'll see you soon. Take care. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.